In the history of crime in the United States, there have been many killers who shocked the world. Some were brutal, some were cunning, and some were monsters hiding in plain sight. But one name still sends a chill down the spine of investigators, journalists, and true crime enthusiasts alike. A killer who didn't just murder people. He played games with the police, sent coded messages to newspapers, and mocked the authorities. Most terrifying of all, he was never caught. This is the story of the mysterious killer known as the Zodiac Killer. The story begins on a cold December night in 1968. The location was a lonely road near Vallejo, a quiet city in Northern California. Two teenagers, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were parked near Lake Herman Road. They were young, they were in love, and they were simply enjoying a peaceful evening together. The road was dark. There were no streetlights, just silence. Then suddenly, another car pulled up behind them. At first, nothing seemed unusual, but moments later, a man stepped out of the vehicle and walked toward the couple's car. What happened? Next would become the first known attack connected to the mysterious killer. Gunshots shattered the silence of the night. When police arrived later, they found a horrifying scene. David Faraday was dead inside the car. Betty Lou Jensen had tried to run, but she didn't make it far. She was found several feet away from the vehicle. Both teenagers were gone, and the killer had disappeared into the darkness. At the time, police believed it might be a random act of violence. They had no idea this was only the beginning. 6 months later, another couple and another quiet location would become the setting for the next nightmare. On July 4, 1969, a young couple named Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were sitting in a parked car at Blue Rock Springs Park, again near Vallejo. It was just after midnight when a car slowly drove into the parking lot. The driver stopped behind them, then drove away. A few minutes later, the same car returned. This time the driver stepped out holding a flashlight and pointed the light directly into the couple's car. For a brief moment they thought it might be a police officer, but suddenly the man began shooting. Bullets tore through the vehicle. Michael Mageau was badly wounded and Darlene Ferrin was critically injured. The killer calmly walked back to his car and drove away. Miraculously, Michael Mageau survived. He later told police that the attacker appeared to be a white man, possibly in his mid-20s to 30s, but the description wasn't enough. Once again, the killer vanished. A few weeks after the attack, something strange happened. 3 major newspapers in Northern California received letters. One went to the San Francisco Chronicle, another to the San Francisco Examiner, and the third to the Vallejo Times-Herald. Each envelope contained a chilling message. The writer claimed responsibility for both murders. But that wasn't the most shocking part. Each letter also included a piece of a coded message, a cipher. The writer demanded that the newspapers publish the code on their front pages. If they didn't, he threatened to kill again. Soon the cipher was printed in newspapers across California. Thousands of people tried to solve it. Teachers, students, cryptographers, and amateur codebreakers. Eventually, a schoolteacher and his wife managed to crack the message. Inside the code was a disturbing confession. The writer described the murders in detail and wrote something truly terrifying. He said he enjoyed killing people. He even claimed that collecting victims was like collecting slaves for the afterlife. The message was signed with a strange symbol, a circle with a cross through it. That symbol would soon become infamous. In a later letter, the writer introduced himself with chilling words. "This is the Zodiac speaking." And just like that, the Zodiac Killer was born. Soon, the Zodiac began sending more letters, more threats, and more puzzles. The killer wasn't just murdering people, he was creating fear. He wanted attention. He wanted fame. In September 1969, another attack occurred. Near Lake Berryessa, two college students, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, were relaxing near the lake when a strange man approached them. He was wearing a dark executioner-style hood, and on the chest of the hood was the same Zodiac symbol. The man claimed he was an escaped prisoner who needed their car. But soon the truth became clear. The couple was tied up and then stabbed multiple times. Before leaving, the attacker calmly walked to their car and wrote something chilling on the door, listing the dates of his previous attacks along with the Zodiac symbol. Cecilia Shepard later died from her injuries. Brian Hartnell survived, but the killer was already gone. Just weeks later, another murder shocked California, this time in the heart of the city. On October 11, 1969, a taxi driver named Paul Stine picked up a passenger in downtown San Francisco. The passenger asked to be driven to a quiet neighborhood. When they arrived, the passenger pulled out a gun and shot Paul Stine. Witnesses saw the killer leaving the scene, and police officers were actually searching the area nearby. But due to a miscommunication, they were looking for a different suspect description. The Zodiac walked right past them and escaped once again. Later, the Zodiac mailed another letter to the San Francisco Chronicle. Inside the envelope was something horrifying, a piece of Paul Stine's bloody shirt, proving that he was indeed the killer. The Zodiac didn't stop writing. More letters arrived, more ciphers, and more threats. Some messages claimed he had killed dozens of people, though investigators could only confirm a handful of victims. What made the Zodiac different from other killers was his obsession with puzzles. Some of his ciphers were incredibly complex. One cipher remained unsolved for more than 50 years until it was finally cracked in 2020 by a team of codebreakers. Surprisingly, the decoded message did not reveal the killer's identity. Instead, it contained more disturbing ramblings about killing and the afterlife. Even after decades, the Zodiac kept his biggest secret hidden. Over the years, investigators considered many suspects. One of the most famous was Arthur Lee Allen, a man who lived in California and owned a watch brand called Zodiac. Police searched his home but never found enough evidence to charge him. Another suspect was Gary Francis Post, whose name surfaced decades later during private investigations. Yet no theory has ever been proven, and the identity of the Zodiac remains one of the greatest mysteries in American criminal history. More than 50 years have passed. Many detectives who worked on the case have retired, and some have passed away. Yet the legend of the Zodiac Killer continues to fascinate the world. Books have been written, documentaries produced, and films created, including the famous movie Zodiac. Still, the biggest question remains unanswered. Who was he? Was he a genius criminal, a disturbed loner, or someone hiding in plain sight? Some believe he died decades ago. Others think he may have stopped killing and lived a normal life. But until his identity is proven, the Zodiac will remain a ghost in American history. The Zodiac didn't just leave behind victims. He left behind fear, mystery, and one of the greatest unsolved cases in the history of the United States: a killer who taunted police, a criminal who turned murder into a twisted game, a mystery that has lasted for more than half a century. Somewhere in the past, there was a man who wrote letters to newspapers, laughed at investigators, and called himself the Zodiac, and to this day, no one knows who he really was.